Hey guys, thanks for joining me for our story today from the Gospel Story Bible. Before we get started, I wanted to say that I hope you're able to join me for Bike Day on Friday. It is either 10 to 11 or 2 to 3, whichever works for your schedule. So bring your bikes or scooters, whatever you'd like to ride, and we will have maybe an obstacle course, some kind of a track for you to ride on, and we are really excited about some good outdoor fun with friends. Also wanted to remind you of our devotion, the long story short, that goes along with our Sunday school curriculum. So there's some things you can do at home as a family with that throughout the week after you listen to the story here with me. So today we are doing the Ark of God, which is from 2 Samuel 6 through 7 and 1 Chronicles 13. Here's the picture. All right. After King Saul died, David took the throne as king of Israel. One of David's first desires was to bring the Ark of God back to Jerusalem. Saul had forgotten about the ark while he was king, so for 20 years it remained in the house of a man named Aminadab, cared for by Eleazar, Aminadab's son, until David came with his men to bring it home. Now, if you remember, God gave Moses the instructions about how to build the ark, and it was kind of the place where God's presence was in Israel back in the Old Testament. So the ark was a really, really important thing, and they were to treat it with respect, and God had a lot of rules that he had set up about how to handle the ark. So that was really important, but it had been many, many years since the ark had been moved, so some of the instructions had been forgotten. In those 20 years, the instructions God gave Moses about the ark were forgotten too. Instead of using Levites, who were the priests, to carry the ark with its poles, David and his men placed the ark on a cart pulled by a team of oxen, led by Uzzah and Ahio, Aminadab's sons. David and the people with him did not realize that anything was wrong. They rejoiced with all their might as they traveled with the ark, singing to the music of trumpets, tambourines, lyres, harps, and cymbals. When they came to a certain spot in the road, the oxen stumbled. To keep the ark from falling, Uzzah put out his hand and took hold of it to keep it steady. But Uzzah was a sinful man, and the ark of God was holy. So immediately God struck Uzzah down dead. Not even the priests were supposed to touch the ark. David was angry that God killed Uzzah, and he questioned how he would ever get the ark back home to Jerusalem. Until David knew the answer, he left the ark in the home of a man named Obed-Edom. The Lord blessed Obed-Edom and his household while the ark was there. After returning to Jerusalem, King David prepared a place for the ark and set up a tent for it. David discovered he had not followed the Lord's instructions on how to carry the ark, which Moses had written out. So David gathered the Levites and his commanders and went back for the ark. This time they did as God had commanded. The Levites carried the ark with the poles on their shoulders and did not touch it with their hands. After 6 steps, David stopped to offer a sacrifice to the Lord and then led the ark back to Jerusalem. There was singing and rejoicing as David returned with the ark, and he danced with all his might. The Levites brought the ark inside the tent and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings to the Lord. David blessed the people in the Lord's name and gave every man and woman bread, meat, and a cake of raisins to celebrate the ark's return. After the ark was brought into Jerusalem, God established his covenant with David through the prophet Nathan. God said, "Your family line and your throne will last forever." When David heard this, he was humbled and prayed to the Lord. The story of Uzzah and the ark teaches us something very important about God. When we learn about God's holiness and we get a hint of God's plan to set up an eternal kingdom, It might seem harsh that God took Uzzah's life, but it was important for the people to understand that God is holy and he must punish sin. Yet though the people were sinful, God promised to establish David's throne forever. With that, we get a glimpse of God's plan of salvation through Jesus. For Jesus is the king in David's family line that lives forever. Unless we trust in Jesus to take our sins away like Uzzah, we will die. But once God saves us, we become part of his eternal family and can even touch the Lord in heaven without fear. All right, now for our let's talk about it questions. Why does the ark start to fall? Do you remember that from the story? Remember, the oxen were holding the ark on the cart and they stumbled and the ark started to fall. So Uzzah reached out to try to touch it and save it. What mistake does Uzzah make? So he tried to touch the ark, right? And that is something that God had said, the ark is holy, and because Uzzah is sinful, he's not supposed to touch the ark. And the third question, we're answering all of the questions before they're asked. The third question was, why couldn't anyone touch the ark? So what did we say just now? We said because the ark is holy, because that's where God is, and he is holy, and we are not. We are sinful. Thanks for joining me for our story today, and I hope that you are able to talk about this some more at home with your parents, and maybe do some of the devotionals if you are able. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you on Friday at Bike Day. Thanks.